Doctors who surgically transition children should be put in jail. Full stop. So I got into this Twitter argument. First of all, hi everybody. It's good to see you again. Thanks for joining me. I haven't done a lot of videos recently because, like I said before, I only do these when I want to. I want this channel to be about me saying things that aren't really being said. Today I'm going to do a video on kids transitioning. And this video it was really started because I got into a Twitter fight with somebody about this, and then I wrote this really long article, and I wanted to just talk a while about why transitioning children surgically should be a crime. Should be a crime. It's insane that we're cutting children. And I want to just lay it out there and hope you all understand where I'm coming from. Now, this person on Twitter, she was so angry. She was a stereotypical leftist. I don't know if she was a she, actually. Was a stereotypical leftist who assumed that I was anti-trans, assumed that I was bigoted, assumed that I had some sort of, psychological insecurity complex that stopped me. And I really wanted to make the point that the reason that I say that doctors should go to prison for cutting children for transitioning is data-based. And the long-term effect, what I'm going to get to the end of this, what you're going to see is that the left says that it has a lot of data supporting transitioning children, and in fact they have none. And they have none by their own design. And by their own design, we cannot and will not ever have the data that we need to make the decision to transition a child. Before I begin, I want to talk with a little bit about my qualifications. Most of you know me as an atheist activist. I used to be a data analyst. I used to be a numbers guy. I have substantial professional experience with large data sets, manipulating and managing and, most importantly, analyzing large data sets. I know my way around crosstabs. That's how I did the regression analysis for my book, Fighting God. So I know my way around numbers. I do not present myself as a statistician. I do not present myself as a guru. I just present myself as somebody who knows his way around data analysis. So, having said that, I want to talk about the two different types of data. There's good data and there's bad data. And that's all there is to it. For the purpose of this video, there's two kinds of data, good data and bad data. Good data predicts the response of a variable given a stimulus, okay? That's what good data is. It's quantitative, which means there's thousands of respondents. There's a control group involved, and you can see how that one variable is affected given a stimulus. For instance, let's say you wanted to do a study on smoking causing cancer. Well, a good way to do that is to get 2,000 identical people, identical in every way except half of them smoke, okay? And study them across the course of time and see which ones develop cancer. Now, since they're identical people, of course they're not identical, there's always a margin of error because nobody's identical, but that's why you use a large sample size. That's why you use a quantitative sample size. That's why you use thousands of people. And the idea is that after you eliminate the variables, or at least to reduce the variables as close to zero as possible, that one variable that's left can be used to predict. If you have all those identical people and they're all completely identical, and the people who smoke, 25% of them got cancer, and the people who didn't smoke, none of them got cancer, you have a good correlation. Okay, that's good data. What is bad data? Bad data is everything else. Bad data is data that doesn't predict. Okay? Bad data can be qualitative, very small sample size. You're just asking a few people their opinion, but you don't have enough to really show a trend. You don't have enough to make a statistically significant prediction. Bad data can be old. Bad data can be off topic. And that's an important point, okay? bad data can be good data when it's on topic, but bad data for not on topic. So let's go back to the smoking thing. Okay, let's say there's a study that exists that there's 2,000 people, identical people, and there's a 25% increase in smoking for those who smoke. Well, let's say I sold red shirts, and I believe that people with cancer like red shirts. So therefore I say, okay, well, I am going to promote smoking. I don't know, promote smoking because it'll sell more red shirts. Well, that's bad data, even though the smoking data is good data when it comes to smoking. When you take it off topic, you don't have a link between smoking and red shirts. You need a link between smoking and red shirts. Otherwise, that's just an assumption, and that's bad data. So good data, statistically significant, large sample size, targeted, okay? And everything else is everything else. The qualitative data, the old data, all of that stuff is bad data. And when I say it's bad data, I mean it is not usable to predict and therefore should not ever, ever be used to predict. When it comes to cutting children, we in this world have been cutting children now for over 10 years. It's 2023, I guess, 2013, 2012. That's when the transitioning of children actually started to happen. We don't really know how many kids have been transitioned surgically, but here's the question. Where are they now? What percentage of those kids are still trans? What percentage of those kids are happy they transitioned? We don't know. That data is not available. It is obtainable. We could write the study anytime we wanted to, but it has not been done anywhere, ever, because doing so would be considered anti-woke. So they never do the study. So many times when you talk about people transition, when you talk about kids transitioning at a young age, and you say, how many people do that? You get a whole bunch of people, right? You get a whole bunch of people saying, I'm trans, I'm a trans adult, and I knew when I was 5, I knew when I was 6, and that's just fine. That's just qualitative, right? That's not, it is presented as an answer to the question of how many kids. It's presented as a quantitative answer, but really we don't know what percentage of the population is represented by those people. Is it 1%? Is it 95%? What percentage of people who are what percentage of 5-year-olds who think they're trans at 5-year-olds ends up as trans adults? What percentage? We don't know. But when we ask, what do we get? We get, I was there. Okay, you've just proved it's not 0. But you have not proved anything close to a number that we can use to predict how many kids are like you the way you were. We cannot use your experience. We cannot use your experience or 5 of your friends or 50 of your friends to predict the population writ large. We need quantitative, good data to do that before we start assuming that you represent all the kids. And so we have this interest of, okay, we're talking about cutting children. We don't want to cut children. I think everybody would agree that we don't want to cut children wrongly, right? We don't want to hurt children. So if we're going to cut children, we really need to have, in my very strong opinion, really good data to make sure that we're doing the right thing to a high degree of probability. We do not have that data. We have a whole bunch of things masquerading as data, but we do not have any good data on the regrets of children who transition as children surgically. We have none. We are rushing children to get surgery, and we have no data. After 10 years, we have no data. Must be millions of people worldwide. Where are they? Why don't we hear from them? If we had that data, we would know X percentage of people who transition at 15 are happy at 25. We would know that. We don't know that. And so for that reason alone, it should be enough that you don't transition a child surgically. You don't do that. Because you shouldn't, because you might be hurting him. The problem is that we don't have that data, and that data is never going to come. So in reality, the leftist cancel culture is stopping that data from happening, stopping the data which would support them if they were right and not support them if they were wrong. That data is not going to ever come about until we get somebody with, somebody who doesn't mind being canceled. And right now, everybody doesn't want to be canceled. And so there's no data for this worldwide. Here's another question. A lot of people talk about suicide. They rush their kids to transition because they say that teen suicide is up and transitioning prevents suicide. There is zero data supporting the idea that transitioning prevents suicide. If there's any research at all, what it compares is people who were from hostile homes and people who got transitioned in happy homes. Okay, those two, that's not one variable. Okay, the problem with that is that it clouds the variables, right? You've got lots of variables. If you've got, it might be the supportive family that stops the suicide, right? It might be something else that stops the suicide. How do you have a link? How do you create a link? How do you determine if there's a link between suicide and surgery? You look at a whole bunch of like people, as identical as possible. People from ideally, supportive homes. Some get transitioned, some do not. How many people kill themselves? How many deaths are there? We don't have that data. That would tell us, okay, if we get this data and, oh my goodness, the people who had the supportive homes and didn't transition killed themselves at 20%, and the kids who got transition killed themselves at 5%, okay, then we have data. We have none of that right now. We have no data at all linking transition surgery to a reduction in suicide. None. We have supposition. We have assumption. We have people rushing because that's how you stop them from committing suicide. Zero data supporting that assertion. Zero data supporting the assertion that transitioning reduces suicide in and of itself. Nobody has any data. The data is not being conducted. It is attainable, it is obtainable, and it is not being conducted because it's considered anti-trans to look at it. Again, cancel culture is stopping the data that we need from happening. Question for you. How can you tell a difference between a 13-year-old butch lesbian and a 13-year-old trans man? How can you tell the difference? You can't. Nobody can. There's not a single person on this planet, not the kid, not the parents, not the best psychologist in the world, that can tell the difference between a 13-year-old or a 15-year-old bull dyke versus a trans man. And bull dykes are women. So if you can't tell the difference between a man and a woman at that age, why are we cutting children? It's insane that we do this. It's insane that we're cutting children when we can't. What, butch lesbians don't exist anymore? Are they gone? What about effeminate boys, tomboys? Are they gone? No, but nobody can tell the difference as teenagers. Zero people can tell the difference as teenagers with a high degree of confidence enough to cut children and make a permanent decision on their behalf. No, zero people can tell that. And if you can tell me any way that you can tell the difference, you let me know, and I'll change my mind. because I'm being data driven here, okay? I am angry because I'm data driven. And if you show me that I'm wrong, because I did the research on this a couple of years ago. If you show me that I'm wrong, I'm happy to change my mind. If you show me good data, quantitative, new, targeted data that predicts things, that predicts behavior given the stimulus, I will listen and very likely change my mind. I've had my mind changed by data many times. And I want to make it clear, I want to make it clear that good data can be way against your mantra, okay? Good data, the best data changes your mind. The best data convinces you that you're wrong, right? You're going down a path and then you get some really solid data that says you're going the wrong way and you can change. That's good data. You're not going to be happy to hear it, but it's still good data. And the data that supports your mantra, but it's qualitative and it's just it's poorly designed and it's old, that's still bad data, even if you love what it says. I posted this opinion on Facebook, and my friend Ellen Johnson, former president of American Atheists, suggested that there is an article out recent that told me that said that kids who transition don't regret it. And so I looked at it, and this is what I saw today. Okay, here's the article that was sent to me. The Associated Press. Now, I want you to go over this with me, and I want you to see the quality of the data that we're talking about here. The title is How Common is Transgender Treatment Regret? How Common is Transgender Treatment Regret Detransitioning? That's a stupid title, but it doesn't matter. It's about how many people regret transitioning. And it's put forth. Why is it put forth? Watch this. Watch this. Look at this fucking data, man. Many states have enacted or contemplated limits or outright bans on transgender medical treatment, with conservative lawmakers saying they are worried about young people later regretting irreversible body-altering treatment. That's the title. Young people regretting irreversible body-altering treatment. That's what I'm talking about, right? That's what we're talking about. I'm not conservative, but yeah, young people regretting body-altering treatment. And then they go into what is the medical treatment? How often do people regret it? Well, they start off with a great line. Look at this. The regret is scant. In the first thing, regret is scant. Okay, great. Dutch research from several years ago, how long ago was several years ago, found no evidence of regret in transgender adults who had comprehensive psychological evaluations in childhood before undergoing puberty blockers and hormone treatment. Puberty blockers and hormone treatment is not cutting. Puberty blockers and hormone treatment is a different thing, isn't it? Some studies suggest that the rates of regret have declined over the years as patient selection and treatment methods have improved. Interesting. In a review of 27 studies involving almost 8,000 teens and adults who had transgender surgeries, mostly in Europe, US, and Canada, 1% on average expressed regret. That sounds wonderful, doesn't it? Wouldn't that be great if that were statistically significant truth? Let's look at the survey. Oh, wait. There's no link to the study in this article. And this talks about what is detransitioning, and that's the whole article. So this is the entire meat of the article. It says 1% on average with 8,000 teens and adults. That sounds to me like there was a study with 8,000 respondents who measured children. Let's take a look. But there's no data. But there's no link. There's no link. Fortunately, like I said before, I had studied this a couple years ago. I read this article. Back a couple years ago. I remember it. And we're going to show it to you. Here it is. I looked it up again. This is the study. Regret After Gender Affirmation Study, a systematic review and meta-analysis. What's a meta-analysis? Is it an analysis or is it not an analysis? There's an unknown percentage of transgender and non-conforming individuals who undergo gender affirmation surveys and experience regret. They want to know what the differences are. What do? They said a systematic review of several databases was conducted. A total of 27 studies, pooling 7,000, there's that word, pooling, 7,928 gender patients who underwent any type of GAS were included. And they are presenting this as it's presenting this as a quantitative study. Look at it. It's presenting it as a study of studies. As you read down, let's look at the example. Extremely low prevalence of regret in transgender patients. Okay. Let's look just a slight little bit deeper, though. Look at what they did here. We're going to go all the way down to the data that they used, these studies that they amalgamated, these 8,000 people. Okay? Oh, look what we've got here. These are the 8,000 people in this study that was just used by Associated Press to support cutting children. Okay? Remember, we are not talking about adults who transition. We are talking about cutting children. Let's look at the studies that they used to combine. Sample size, 111 from 1989. 111 people in 1989. How many of those were transitioned kids? None. And it's a sample size of 111. Not statistically significant. This is an invalid study. You can't use this as quantitative data. It's qualitative. You can't use this as quantitative. You can't combine this with other data because the data wasn't taken at the same way. The methodology isn't the same. You can't combine. This is a bullshit article. This is crap. This takes qualitative from 1988, qualitative from 1997, qualitative from 2006, qualitative from 2014, qualitative from 2009. Look, we've got two articles here. One has 1,000 people from 1998. That's not valid anymore, sorry. And one has 4,000. That's quantitative. And it's from 2018. That's new. And it's targeted. That's interesting. Oh, wait, it's not about cutting kids. So this AP article that went on to say, let's go back to that AP article. The report, the concerns are lawmakers are worried about young people later regretting irreversible body-altering treatment. They call the results of regret scant, and none of it was statistically significant. None of it was targeted. None of it was about children. None of it was predictive. This is a bullshit article. This is bad data being promoted as good data because we don't have good data, because good data is not being conducted, because if you say anything less than 100%, you're anti-trans and you're canceled. And so we're cutting children. We're cutting children, and we're using fake bad data to support our cutting of children. I want to make one more comment before I go. I think the way the left is treating detransitioners is barbaric. I think detransitioners are the victims of this bad data, masquerading as good data. Detransitioners are victims of leftism, pushing transition on children, cutting kids. Detransitioners do not deserve derision. They deserve support. They deserve love. They are the victims of wokeism more than anyone else. And it is repugnant to me that they aren't being promoted and coddled by leftism. They aren't being hugged by leftism. They aren't being supported by leftism. And most importantly, they aren't being put in front of children considering transitioning. They're not even being put, these kids that are considering transitioning are not getting any sort of, are you sure? Hey, here's a con argument. And so we have a situation, okay? We've got zero data saying X percentage of children who think they're trans at 12 years old end up being trans. X percentage of 15-year-olds who think they're trans at 15-year-old end up being trans. We have zero data on that. We have zero data to talk about the link between suicide and transitioning. We have zero data. It's 100% assumption. We have no way to tell the difference between a butch lesbian and a trans man. We have no way to tell. And we have detransitioners being hidden from people from the entire movement and being guffawed and being pushed away. If there was a mass hysteria to transition kids, even if it was their detriment, they would hide the good data. They would present bad data, which supports it, and call it good data. They would hide detransitioners. They would assume that everybody who was gender nonconforming was trans. This is what it would look like. This is what it would look like. Okay? If the trans movement was about transing as many kids as possible, even to their detriment, it would look exactly like this. Okay? The trans movement says they have data. They do not have any data supporting the need to cut children. None. Zero. Okay? We need great data to cut a child. We need fantastic data coming out of our ears before we say to a child, okay, child, we're going to cut you for your own good. We need excellent data to do that. We have none. We have kludge data. We have fake data. We have bad data representing itself as good data so that more kids will transition as quickly as possible. It's weird. It really does look like there's some sort of conspiracy that puts transitioning children above the children's best interest, even above the children's best interest. Okay. So back to the topic at hand. I am not a statistician, but I'm experienced at data analysis. Most people are not. Most people don't know how to do a regression analysis. Most people don't know what I know about data. But doctors do. Doctors do. Doctors read all those reports, and all those medical reports, they're all talking about statistical significance and sample size and, control groups and how we predict. Doctors know data. It's a part of their job. And that means that doctors who transition children know everything that's in this video is true. They know it. And they're cutting children anyway for money. They're cutting children anyway for money. That's why doctors who perform child transition surgery need to go to jail. They're not good. They're not doing good, and they're not trying to do good. They are milking a broken system which they know is broken and harming children in the process knowingly. Knowingly. And that's why they deserve to go to jail. That's why they deserve to go to jail. That's why they deserve to be ousted from society. They are human garbage. I'll stop there. Thanks for listening. Hey, this is a good rant. I don't post many, but hey, I really would appreciate it if you would like and subscribe to this video. Like this video, subscribe it. Share it around if you think it's worthwhile. And thanks a bunch, and we'll see you on the flip side.